Okay, so this deal is done. Francis is fighting Tyson Fury October 28th in Saudi Arabia. When I go through this story for you, now that this is a done deal, this is the ultimate David beats Goliath story. I finally feel like I have my thoughts organized. I've tried to record this 5 different times, and I keep realizing, oh God, I got to start this way. I'm done. I'm done doing it. I'm just going to do it on this one video. When I lay out what these guys went through to get this fight done, the step by step over the multiple years, all the hurdles that Francis and his team went through to get this fight done, it is going to melt your brain. It'll melt your brain. I have a lot of new viewers as of the last couple days. And so if you are not familiar with my channel until very recently, I was on the inside of this story for 2 years. I've known exactly what was going on all the way through. I told people 6 months in advance things that were going to happen. Oh, Jesse, and then they came true because I obviously, I'm very, 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 very tight with people on Francis' team. And bottom line, I'm going to be able to paint a story for you here that no one else will be able to. And I can't wait to tell it, dude, because October 28th, Francis and Tyson Fury are fighting in Saudi Arabia. It's a boxing match. I want to talk about the rule set. I want to talk about the belt status, whether or not he's going to be fighting for the belt. And hopefully you will find this as inspiring as me because the sacrifices these guys made to get to this point, the risks that these guys took to get to this point, and now what the payoff is going to be. It's like the UFC literally came out in the last 2 months and tried to get publicly tried to court Tyson Fury to fight John Jones. And now because they went public and went after it and Francis got it, is like, it's just the ultimate cherry on top of this cake that they built for themselves. I cannot, oh man. Woo. Anyway, so we're going to talk about all of that. All right. Now, some of you guys might be like, oh, I don't even care about this fight. I'm not talking about the fight. We'll talk about the fight a little bit, of course. But if you can't feel excited for this guy, for Francis and his team, at the end of me explaining what actually happened here and how much money he's going to make and what he risked to get here, then you're something like, you not like me, dude, you not like me. So let's jump right into it because we have a lot of stuff to cover. If you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, I would just click subscribe one time. Watch all of my stuff. I appreciate you very, very much. That's all I ask of people who watch my stuff. All right, so let's start with the main details everybody's going to want to know. So they fight October 28th in Saudi Arabia. It's a boxing match, pure boxing rules. Francis is... They're still in the process of interacting with the boxing commission to see if they're actually going to be fighting for the belt or not. But obviously, the whole point of doing it this way is Francis wants a shot at the title. Okay, so that's still undetermined as far as I understand it. The Tyson Fury camp, really interesting point here, is what had we heard on the boxing side as it related to Q4 of 2023 for the last 2-3 months? Do you guys remember? Because all I've heard was that in the Middle East, there was going to be this fight at the end of the year that was going to be like, they were going to have Usyk, Tyson Fury, Deontay Wilder. All these guys were all going to be on the same card, and they were all going to be making $1 billion or whatever, right? It was like this huge card that was supposed to be at the end of the year. And obviously, he's not fighting October 28th and then turning around 2 months. I mean, maybe he thinks he is, right? Maybe he thinks he's going to fight October 28th and he's going to turn around in 2 months and fight again. Maybe. But that seems rather unlikely. You can't, I don't know. I mean, as a matter of fact, I just realized maybe he thinks he is. Maybe he thinks he's just going to walk right through Francis October and then just turn around and fight again in December, whenever that fight card was going to be. But I don't know. I find that kind of hard to believe because both in the Middle East, I think this is that fight. I think this is the fight that they've been talking about, and it ended up being Francis against Tyson Fury. Now, where to even start with this story is very hard to even think about. Here's the deal, okay? How many fighters fight their way out of a UFC contract while still in their prime, in the prime of their career, become free agents? How many? How many ever have fought their way through their contract in the UFC and then while still in their prime just been like, yeah, I'm going to go do something else? Okay? The answer is zero. Zero. Not one. No one. At least not in the modern age. You know, I'm not talking like way back when. In the modern age, not one person has, oh my God, hang on. So, very cryptic text, just a very cryptic tweet just came through from Michael Chandler, which is going to validate what I said earlier to many, many people, which is I think they might be holding the Conor McGregor. Remember I said Conor McGregor, Michael Chandler, probably already done, probably already booked. And then UFC almost for sure knew about this fight. And so they're probably going to be holding back the announcement, as soon as Ariel, because I said that the Conor McGregor fight with Michael Chandler is already booked. I already said, this just came through like right this second. I said that fight was already booked and I thought they were going to announce it this weekend. And then Ariel tweeted out that the Tyson Fury and Francis Ngannou fight is likely to be announced very, very soon. And then they didn't announce Michael Chandler versus Conor at the press conference like I said that they probably would. And I said, I bet you that they're holding it so that when Tyson Fury and Francis Ngannou gets announced, they can come over the top with Chandler versus Conor. Did I not say that? Did I not say that? Because I definitely said that. And now you got beepity boop, 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 boop. So there's that. Anyway, gosh, you're just always right. I know, dude. It's crazy. It's almost like the strategy behind this game is kind of straightforward. Anywho, so bottom line, okay? Oh, by the way, that was, I just kind of showed that as if that was really clear what that means. Okay, so that is a Christmas tree, which means Michael Chandler is implying that Conor versus Chandler is going to happen the last show of the year around Christmas. So that's what that is. So, anywho, let's start with the recent past, okay? Let's just start really quick and talk about Dana going public with and making such a huge public play at Tyson Fury versus John Jones. So, that was a big risk as it turns out. Right? Because the second that he, like as soon as he goes public and he's like, we're going after Tyson. Let's do this. John Jones, Tyson Fury, we'll get you paid, dog. We will get you paid. The only way that you do that is if you didn't think that there was a high likelihood that Tyson Fury and Francis would actually get this deal done. Because as soon as you put it out there, if he does it with these other guys, that really sticks a knife through the entire image that you're trying to create, which is guys cannot succeed without the UFC. That has been behind all of the strategy that these guys have been trying to implement to try to block Francis Ngannou from doing this Tyson Fury fight. Now, what I was saying right before the Chandler thing came through is how many guys have gotten out of their contract in their prime? None. Now, why is that? Obviously, the UFC wants to retain the value of a person who is right there in the prime of their career so that they can, it's like they built them up. They gave them the platform. They did well. They built them up. Why would the UFC want to allow them to take the value that they built on their platform and then just go and do other things? Not only do they feel entitled to the value that they've built, but they also don't want them to go and give that value to a competing organization or give other fighters the impression that they can just leave the UFC and go make much more money. Because bottom line, Francis is going to make a fortune for this fight, a fortune. And we're going to come back to that right after this when we talk about what they sacrificed and what they risked to get this fight, okay? So here's the thing, okay? Here's the thing. The UFC cannot pay the same amount of money as boxing match. They can't. They can't pay the same amount as a boxing fight, okay? The UFC has this huge organization. They've got guys, they're paying people all day, every day. It's a company. The UFC is a company. They have to pay all the people at the PI. They got to pay all of the executive staff. They got to pay all of the advertising people. They have this huge machine. They're paying people. A boxing match right now, this Tyson Fury and Francis Ngannou thing, there's no one getting paid right now, really. You know what I mean? They might have now hired an external marketing firm or something, right? Where is all this infrastructure they have to pay? Okay, it costs way less money, not even comparable money to put these fights on versus what the UFC does. But if you have spent any minute in the fight business, you understand that the UFC has this incredible machine where it's easy to get fighters fights and all that. It's a disjointed nightmare outside of that. But bottom line is they cannot compete with this type of fight. Now, how many of these fights are there though? Very few. However, If the big champions in the UFC get the idea that they can fight out their contract and they can go get one of these fights and make 30, 40, 50 million dollars, okay, then they're going to start losing a lot of fighters. It's a really big deal. They really, really did not want him to get this fight. Not only did they not want him to become a free agent, they really did not want him to get this fight. Really did not want to. And they played, I'm not even going to say they played dirty, because I'll walk you through exactly what happened between Francis and the UFC in the years leading up to this thing, okay? Like, here is basically everything that happened, all right? Francis, I'll start with the Stipe fight, okay? And I mean, listen, dude, I just know all of this stuff because I was right there. I knew all of this stuff on the inside while these things were happening. So I'll start at the Stipe fight. He goes into the Stipe fight and they are trying to re-sign him, all right? Like, they're trying to re-sign him. They want to get him signed because he has 2 more fights on his deal and then he's a free agent. He has a sunset clause in December of 2022, which is one of the first sunset clauses that was going to actually come into play. Sunset clause means no matter what, doesn't matter if you fought out all the fights on your contract, whatever, if you hit that date, which for him, I believe was like December 13, I don't know. It was the middle of December 2022. His contract's over no matter what. He's an unrestricted free agent, okay? Now, the Stipe fight, I haven't looked it up, but I believe it was March or April or something like that of 2021, all right? So it's a long ways from the end of 2022. They tried to re-sign him. They turned it down. Francis took $600,000 for that fight instead of multiple millions of dollars for that fight. They left millions of dollars on the table because they wanted to win the belt. Because if they were going to stay with the UFC, they bet on themselves, right? So if they win the Stipe fight and they become the champion, then he's the belt-holding world champion with 1 fight left on his deal and a sunset clause, which would put them in an incredible negotiating position for their next contract. So they're betting on themselves. In reality, they also are trying to fight their way out of the UFC contract potentially because either that or they want leverage so that they can get the UFC to co-sponsor and co-promote the Tyson Fury versus Francis Ngannou fight. Now, I am very curious if the UFC regrets not just agreeing to do that now because they got the fight done. Them saying, no, we're not going to do that. You know, I completely understand the UFC's position on all of this. Let me just say that. And I completely understand Francis' position on all of this, right? Francis watched Conor McGregor go make $100 million. Now, aside from the money, okay, there's 2 sides of this, right? There's Francis went through hell on earth to get to where he was, and we'll come back to that. His dream was to win the boxing world title. His original dream was not to be the UFC world champion. It was to be the boxing world champion. He's come this far. He's the heavyweight champion of the UFC. He could just look. He's like, I can get a heavyweight title boxing match. I can achieve everything that I set out to do. I just need the UFC to agree to help me do it. And the UFC's like, yeah, maybe, you know, whatever. And he's smart enough to realize that these things that they're offering in the contract are not going to happen. It's like, yeah, we'll do it if this, gives them contractual outs on all that. And he's like, no, I'm not going to do that. So he takes a Stipe fight, takes a total risk. If he loses to Stipe, he's done. You know, like he just left millions of dollars on the table. He knocks out Stipe. Now he's got real leverage. He's the title holder. He has a sunset clause and he has 1 fight left on his deal. Okay. So at that point, right out of the gate, they've already left millions of dollars on the table for the Stipe fight. Now, the UFC starts offering real money, okay? Millions of dollars. I don't think it's appropriate for me to like lay out exactly what the offers were, but I could just tell you this, okay? I have heard very, 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 very credible rumors on exactly what like Izzy makes, okay? Who, if I'm not mistaken, is the highest paid guy outside of Conor McGregor. That is either equivalent or a little bit less than what Francis was offered at one point, and Francis turned it down, okay? Turned it down because there were things in that contract that he didn't like. Now, I'm going to be straight, honestly. When I heard that story, I was like, what? Like, who wouldn't have signed that contract, dude? Who wouldn't have signed that contract? Like, it seemed the stipulations that he was, you know, arguing over seemed, I don't know. Like, I was like, dude, that sounds like I understood why the UFC was really pissed, you know, but he had his mindset on the boxing. He had his mindset on the boxing. There were things about extensions that he was upset about in the contract. Bottom line, he was offered the biggest contract in the UFC that was not Conor's, and he turned it down. Okay. So At the time, that sounds insane. That's why UFC is coming out and going like, oh, this guy's management doesn't know what the hell they're doing. You know, they just assume that it's like his management in his ear. Now, in fairness, his management 100% has been dialed in and trying to think of, or like has been focused on this Tyson Fury fight for years. For years. This is what they were focused on. They did want out of the UFC contract. They did want to do the Tyson Fury fight, and they wanted to do it independent because why? Because then they're set to do all kinds of things in the future, not to mention the enormous amount of money that's on it. But in order to get to this place where they have now successfully made this happen, you understand it's over. This is over now. This is over. This fight is over. If Francis wins, oh my God, then you get to do all kinds of things. The likelihood of that happening is, of course, extraordinarily low. I can't even imagine what the betting odds are going to be on this fight. He's going to be the biggest underdog in the history of the world. But it doesn't matter because the fight was in the business side. It was on the business side, okay? Now, also, I will just point out, betting against Francis, bad bet, dude. Bad bet. Now, this is the biggest mismatch in the history of sports, as far as I'm concerned. This is way bigger mismatch than Conor versus Mayweather. Way bigger. Not even comparable. Not even comparable how big of a mismatch this is. So if Francis does win, I honestly can't even get to a place where if Francis wins, I can't just say like, I'm pretty sure God just came down and was like, we're giving this one to this guy. This guy and his management team went through so much to get this fight. We're giving it to him. We're just giving it to him, dude. Hopefully the reason Tyson Fury's been out doing all this like crazy talk in the last like however many months has been because he's been partying his balls off. Maybe. But anywho, so at this point, the UFC is throwing lots of money at Francis. Then he books the Cyril Gane fight. He has a torn MCL. He should not fight. He has a torn MCL. If he gets surgery on the MCL, his time off will get him to the sunset clause. He does not need to take that fight. He could have gotten out of his contract without taking the fight. He goes to, check this out. He goes to a specialist, all right? The specialist, not the UFC specialist, the specialist in LA who does like all the most high-end athlete, what's the kind of surgeon that reattaches ligaments and stuff, whatever. He goes to the guy who did, I'm pretty sure he did Kobe's like Achilles. And the guy goes, dude, he can't fight. He cannot fight with that knee. He cannot fight. He can't fight with that knee. His coach is his coach is like, they're like, hey, how's he look? He's like, I don't know. He had a torn MCL. He has one knee. Francis has one knee. And he's going up against another striker who is a world-class, okay? And the last time the only time Francis lost in the UFC, aside from that stupid Derek Lewis fight that doesn't count, was to Stipe because of wrestling. Like, you can't be, he'll just wrestle him then. He's going to shoot a super fast takedown with one knee. He's going to be in a striking match with Cyril Gane, and he has one leg. This is an insane fight to take. And because he didn't sign the new deal, if he loses, the UFC is going to take a 14-inch black whatever, and they're going to publicly ram it straight up his baby hole. Or I guess it doesn't have it. I was trying to think of like a way to not get demonetized. Baby hole is literally the worst way to categorize that because that sounds like a vagina, and that's not what he has. So, you know what I mean. They were going to destroy him publicly if he lost that fight. And he's going in on one leg. He loses the first 2 rounds. I was there. Let me show you. I was at that fight, dude. And these guys had every single thing on the line in this fight. If he lost, this is a wrap. The UFC was going to destroy him publicly. I'm going to show you the aftermath of that fight because it's one of my favorite moments of my entire life, to be perfectly honest with you, because I knew I was one of the only people that really knew what was on the line here, where it was like, because Markel, his manager, who I am doing a terrible job of including in this story, every egg he had was all in on Francis, and he personally is leaving hundreds of thousands of dollars on the table each time that Francis fights without a new deal. The Stipe fight, the Gane fight, he is taking this risk with Francis. And if Francis loses, they're dead. If Francis wins, they can probably get out of his contract, and then they can go and at least try to get the Tyson Fury fight, which will be one of the biggest events, for Francis. He's going to get a payday that's out of this world. What manager takes risks like this with their fighter? Who recommends their fighter that they roll the dice and do this fight? No one. So he's down 2 rounds. Okay, he's down 2 rounds, and then he comes back and in 3, 4, 5 he wins through grappling. He's not even a grappler, dude, and he wins. Okay, so this one was this was me and Eric after they won. I was, because I was like in the front or whatever, and I intentionally put myself in the front so that I could do this after. That's me and his coach. Super stoked. But this one is me and Markel, who is Eric's my dude, but this is my dude right here. Like, his life was on the line right here. And whoop, boop. It was unreal, dude. Unreal. So he wins. They get to the end of the contract. They get to the end of the contract. But before they get to the end of the contract, CAA closes their MMA division. Markel goes to Francis, explains to him what's going on. Francis is like, I don't really understand what's happening. I'm just going to do this on my own. Markel, who had rolled the dice with Francis this entire time, now finds himself not representing Francis when he's in free agency after he had rolled the dice with him across this whole time. So, the only way I knew how to affect this thing was to point out the obvious in about 100 videos, which was, Francis, if you're trying to negotiate a boxing match without a team, you're out of your fucking mind. You need a team, dude. You need a team. 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 What was I actually saying? Put Markel back on your fucking team. Go back and grab your manager who had put you in the ring with Tyson Fury in Wembley Stadium and put him back on the job immediately. Fucking immediately. Go do that right now. And at a certain point, I have no idea if my videos had any impact on that whatsoever, but I did as many videos as I could to try to influence that thing. He puts Markel back on, and then now this fight gets done. There is justice in the world, right? There's justice in the world. But not before the UFC made this huge play at Tyson Fury, and now it's like dude, Tyson Fury could have fought it. He chose Francis over John Jones. It's craziness, dude. It's absolute craziness. Congratulations, Markel. Congratulations, Francis. This whole thing, dude, they won. They beat the UFC. And I'm not listen, dude, my entire YouTube career exists because of UFC. I am not a UFC hater. I don't understand people who do this professionally and they constantly just rag on the UFC. They always find any excuse to rag on the UFC. I think I'm pretty objective, dude. I'll shit on them if they deserve it, but show a little fucking gratitude, dude. You know what I mean? It's don't talk shit about the UFC and dance on their grave all the time. You're like, bitch, your entire fucking career exists because of the UFC. Okay? What would you be doing if the UFC did not lock people in their contracts early on so they could build the fucking business? You want to know what you'd be doing? Not what you're doing. Something else, dude. You'd be doing something else. So show some respect. But in situations like this, you also just need to be an objective human being where you could be like, okay, now they have the world by the fucking balls. And yes, now they are the Goliath. And if a person like Francis has gone through what he went through, he's in Cameroon in his 20s. He's never taken a single fighting lesson ever. And he just decides, yeah, I'm going to go to America or Europe and I'm going to go become the world boxing champion. It's like, no, you're not. No, yes, I am. Listen, in the sand mine here, I could do the same work as 4 people in a day. So I'm going to go win the boxing world championship. No. No, you're not. You're not going to do that. Yes, I am. No, you're not, dude. Okay? You're too old. You're in your 20s. There is no scenario where you're going to do that. No, yes, I am. Okay, Francis, I feel like you're not listening to me, okay? I promise you, I know more about this than you do. See, I'm teleporting myself back there and I'm being the voice of every single person that talked to him. It's like, you don't know what you're talking about. You can't just decide to be the boxing champion. These guys have been boxing since they were 2. It's not going to happen. You're big for here. They are bigger than you. Stronger. They could do the same amount of work as 4 people here. This is not going to happen. Yes, it will. Okay. let me just walk through the logistics, dude. You're in Cameroon, you have no money. How are you even going to, let's just say, like, I don't know, get to America or Europe? I'll figure it out. You'll figure it out. Do you know anything about visas, passports, the way that you get in and out of countries? Do you have enough for a plane ticket? No. Do you have enough for like 5 consecutive lunches? Well, I think I'm going to sell my motorcycle for boxing lessons. Dude, you are not living in reality right now. No, I am. And then over a year, step by step, he just goes one step at a time. He ends up in the forest. He ends up in the desert. He ends up in the thing. And like, there's no reason for me to even go through the step by step that it took for him to actually get to Europe. It is insane, including him 11 times trying to paddle across the Atlantic Ocean, I think the Atlantic or Indian Ocean, whatever, to get to the landmass of Europe in a raft with a bunch of other refugees, and then just getting picked up, thrown back, and eventually on the 11th try, this is the 11th try of just this part of the journey, okay, just this part of the journey, they get arrested and put in jail in Spain. And so he ends up in Europe. They let him out. He's got scars all over his arms from scaling razor wire. This is just to get to where he's a homeless person in France. He still hasn't even started the boxing journey. He started when he's in his 20s. Okay? And somehow he ends up getting diverted into MMA. Obviously, he was very well suited for that. And he becomes the UFC world champion. And while not one person has ever gotten out of their contract while being the champion, he wanted to go box and try to, make his dream come true. And listen, I just want to put this into perspective, okay? At the time that he is in Cameroon and he's having this conversation, I'm going to go be the boxing world champion. And you're like, no, you're not, dude. No, yes, I am. No, you are not, dude. Yes, I am. The likelihood of him becoming the UFC world champion from that position compared to the likelihood of him beating Tyson Fury is not comparable, okay? Like, he has a 100 times better chance of beating Tyson Fury than he does of accomplishing what he has already, okay? So as much as this is probably going to be the biggest mismatch of all time when it comes to the odds, I mean, I'm never going to be able to get to a place where I'm like, yeah, I think Francis is going to win because I just know too much about boxing, but nonetheless, what I know about the universe, dude, like if it's one of these things where people like they're betting $2 million on Tyson Fury to win 10 grand, I'm gonna be like, that's not a good bet, dude. That is not a good bet. That's the worst $2 million to win 10 bet of all time. This guy he gets it done, dude. There's no logical way I can get there. Like there's no way I can say like, he's gonna throw big overhand right. Like there's no way I can get there, dude. But what I can say is, historically, he's magic, dude. He's got an unbreakable brain. The fact that he got to to France on its own, incredible. The fact that he was able to find a gym that would train him, incredible. The fact that he got to he got to the UFC in general, incredible. The fact that he won the title, incredible. The fact that he fought his way out of his contract, incredible. The fact that he actually booked his Tyson Fury fight, incredible. I don't think the odds of any of those things happening are smaller than the odds of him beating Tyson Fury. So that is what I've got. Congratulations, Francis. Congratulations, Markel. Congratulations to Tyson Fury. And this is going to be a rough day at headquarters for the UFC, I would imagine. But they've got the world by the balls. They'll be fine. So that's what I've got. Love you guys. Peace.